This is John speaking. All right, we are ready to roll. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Kirsch, and I'm a deaf and hard of hearing education consultant for MDE, Resource for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Acronym would be MDER DHH. If you notice, we do have a new logo. Before it was LIO, which is no longer, and we are now RDHH. I wanted to welcome everyone today. We are thrilled to be able to share our DHH insights. This is our last one of the series for this school year. And before we do get started, we do have a few items on our list here to go over. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be added to the MDER DHH video library on our website. And if there are any questions that you may have during this live webinar today, they can be added to the Q&A feature that will be located in your Zoom controls. The questions are anonymous and they will be read by the event host at the end of this webinar, of course, if time permits. And also for those of you who have requested professional development credits, when you registered, we will verify your attendance via the Zoom timestamp. If your attendance is then verified, our office will be submitting those credits and they will be applied in the MOECS system within the next few weeks. All right, if I can have the next slide, please. All right, great. And then before we proceed with today's event, we want to make sure that everyone's accessibility needs are being met, this is a priority. We do have interpreters on today's webinar. If you need to see the interpreters more clearly, click View in the top right-hand corner, and then select Gallery View, and then select Hide Non-Video Participants. Additionally, we would like to ask everyone to turn their videos off so that only the presenters and the interpreter videos are visible. Captioning is available for this webinar. To turn it on, click the Show Captions button, which is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You might need to click on the word More to see it. Lastly, you can adjust the video layout on your Zoom screen by hovering over the faint line. If you notice that separates the video from the shared screen, and you can move that from left to right. If you need any kind of technical assistance during this call today, please make sure and message myself or my colleague in the chat room. And it could be Amanda Schneider or Kelly Dunham or Sarah Sybil in the Zoom before we start today. And at this point, we would like to get started today. I would like to hand this over to our director, our interpreter correction, our project manager, Elizabeth Flores, and we can go from there. Elizabeth, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Flores. I am a program manager with MDER DHH, and I am so excited to be with you today to welcome you. I appreciate you taking some time to be with us this afternoon. Really looking forward to an excellent presentation from all three of our presenters, a great conversation about supports available to assist you in your work. So again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time.
All right, again, this is John speaking. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I wanted to briefly introduce our DHH consultant team here. And I have myself, of course, and then we have Kelly Dunham is here as well. We also have Amanda Schneider. And also recently, we have a new one with us today with Sarah Sybil, which she was recently hired on our team as well. You can see their photos here on that slide. All right, so now the learning objectives is what we're going to talk about next. As you can see here, the participants should be able to identify 3 state agencies that can be accessed for supports, and also to explain how to get in contact with agencies for that support, and then also to describe at least one benefit agencies for support can offer. All right, and now I wanted to introduce Debbie Belovec. Debbie Belovec, trying to spell her last name. And she is a consultant with the Office of Special Education. And she will be presenting and going through a brief summarization about what her office there at OSE, Office of Special Ed, OSE, will be doing and what they are doing. And so now, Debbie, you are up. Thank you. And this is Debbie speaking. Hello, John. Thank you so much. It's really nice to meet all of you here today. If I could have the next slide, please. All right. So, hi there again. My main responsibility with the Office of Special Ed would be this. It would be the Office of Special Ed Education line. What that means is people from all over the state of Michigan or even outside of the state, not really out of the country so much, but definitely people outside of the state and in Michigan will call or email us with questions, concerns, needing supports, etc. And oftentimes that support is in relation to special education concerns or needs, of outreach, contacts, etc. And in this past year, people have also have known our phone number as far as emails. They have contacted us with special ed concerns, but they're not really related questions. So what we're trying to do is find the right contact person. If it's a question that is unrelated, we make sure and get them in touch with the proper person for whatever questions or concerns they may have. The next slide here. Great. All right. So what we do at this point is suppose if a person were to give us a call, send us an email, and they need some test. We provide technical assistance, but not any kind of advice. Okay. We are not a legal, we're not people of the legal field. We are aware of special ed law, of course, and we provide technical assistance. So it's really critical for all of you out there who are on this webinar to keep that in the front of your mind. So we really appreciate that, to know that information. The next slide. So some of our contacts, let's just say it's a parent who would call us and say, my child is the age of 3 and they're deaf. I need school services. What do we do with that? Well, what we would do at that point is give the parents 3 options, or resources, I should say, documents that would explain what happens during their experience as far as special ed assessments, etc. And also we contact the parents, the ISD, and find their coordinator and say, hey, this is what we have going on. We just spoke with whoever it would be. And I encourage you to speak with your ISD so there's some information to let them know that your child is in the district. Now, suppose you yourself, if your child, you find out from the child coordinator at the time, the timeline doesn't start, I should say, when we let them know the information is available. Your timeline would start with whoever it was when they made that connection to each other directly. Okay. So, and then also we often make suggestions for Michigan collaborations, Michigan Alliance for Families, and they can discuss those parent concerns, and they're the ones that are listeners and not only just meet them, but they actually listen to some discussions that parents may have in reference to how the parents can make those decisions with what they're choosing to do with their child in those next stages of life. And then the next thing is a special ed mediation services. So that would be for the families to be able to contact them. And if it's a SEMS is the acronym, and they contact them for supports to be able to go with them and advocate for those school meetings together, to kind of be a mediator liaison, so to speak, a facilitator, I should say, to facilitate those kind of meetings. And then, every day, the person contacts us on a daily basis and says, hey, for example, a parent might say, well, they've let us know their concerns. And we would say, hey, we know you have a concern about your school district or about your ISD. And with a special ed, director, we know that you have those concerns. oftentimes the answer is we ask and they say, no, we've not let them know our concerns. And so we try to strongly encourage them, hey, get in contact, first of all, with your special ed directors, et cetera, to let your concerns be known. If someone were to contact us and have a concern with the 504 plan, let's just say, our suggestion at that point would be the Federal Office of Civil Rights. It's the OSER. And so OSCR. So that's OSCR is, some state offices have been closed. Unfortunately, I believe 3 or 4 around the US have been closed, meaning that the federal office, OSCR, is working double time. They're overwhelmed because some offices being closed, and their response time may vary in reference to that because of that. And the other federal offices that we do provide would be, for example, FERPA, FERPA, that's Students Privacy and Advocacy, and that is for concerns with the student, with their student records. So there's quite a list. And if we can have the next slide, that would be great. All right. So this is our contact information. There's a telephone number. You can see this on your shared screen, and there's also an email address there as well. And when I call back, it will be me. I am deaf, and I do use VRS, a video relay service, through Sorensen Communications. And so I will speak with the hearing person who has a concern. We have an interpreter who actually interprets that conversation via video. So suppose a deaf person, let's just say, were to contact me directly and they use sign language, we can use ASL as our language, we can do that as well. But suppose a family is, they speak another language, let's say, and I'm responsible to call them back. What we do is we would have 2 interpreters on the line for that case. Then we would have, for example, a Spanish speaking interpreter and then an ASL interpreter. And then of course, that's how we would navigate that communication as well. And we have multiple language interpreters that would be available for that. I am not the only one that responds to parents and staff, school personnel that contacts us. I am not the only one with that. There are 3 of us that do share that responsibility of contacting parents. So suppose someone were to call the information line like I've showed you here, and perhaps another person might contact them back. So the other 2 colleagues are hearing, and so they just speak for themselves on the phone. Of course, like I said, I use an ASL interpreter as far as supporting my communication needs. And I think that's the last slide. I'm not really sure. I apologize. Could you show me that last slide? Would you mind?
Oh, yes, I was right. That was the last one. Okay, hello, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead. Yes, thank you. That's fine. Go ahead, Elena. I just wanted to introduce you. Elena is from the Division on Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing. DOD DBHH is the acronym. And that's under the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. Turning it over to you, Elena. Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, I need to change my job title just a little bit. I just started yesterday. As of yesterday, I am no longer the liaison for the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing. I am now the department specialist. So I do have a new job title. And my responsibilities are similar, but I do have a little bit more responsibility focusing on complaints. And now I can be involved in investigations and in helping with follow through with the complaint process. So that is amazing. I have been waiting for this promotion and finally it was received. So I'm thrilled to be being able to do this job. Next slide, please. All right, so I wanted to briefly explain what the goal of the DOD-DBH, what those goals are. We are under MDCR, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. And then there's another unit there, the Disability Rights Compliance, DRAC. And we report to the Disability Rights Compliance Unit. And we work with people who are deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing. If they experience any type of frustration, discrimination, oppression, if they fail, they don't receive accommodations at their doctor's appointments, like an interpreter or in court or in the hospital, any public service, any public entity that does not provide accommodations are considered in violation of the ADA. So we are at a state level, and we handle filing of complaints, and those complaints are filed free. You don't have to pay for that. And if you're frustrated with the process, I get involved and I become the liaison, if you will, or the advocate between you, the complaint filer, and then the investigator. And I help make sure that you understand what's happening in the process, the legal terminology, the meaning of those sentences and phrases. And I help people feel relaxed. So I reduce the anxiety when it comes to filing a complaint and all of the legalese. So that's why I'm here, is to help people relax and to help walk them through that process. So the other hat that I wear, not only complaints, but I also do a lot of outreach. And that focuses on the community, linking with, training and appointing authorities, meaning hospitals, courts, attorneys. So typically what I tend to do is a lot of training about how to accommodate people like us who identify as deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing. So I do a lot of training. That was a very brief synopsis, but next slide, please. Okay, this is a very brief synopsis of what DHH does. You can see the 3 pictures there, and it just shows what we did in the past in 2024. The first picture, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but last year during the summer in Detroit, we hosted a accessibility event. And it was just an amazing event. There were a lot of different disability organizations who had tables there. They were outside the building in Detroit, and the Detroit police officers were there as well. And it was very nice to have that interaction and that bond with a variety of organizations, to know that the Detroit police were there and learning from us. And so a lot of people with disabilities were there, and they didn't realize what I did. And also the agencies did not realize that they needed that training. So it was wonderful exposure for everyone. The other picture you can see there is my former boss, Annie Uraski, and currently she is working as a legislative liaison for the Office of Civil Rights, and she focuses on government and bills. And it's pretty cool to have a deaf person in that position currently. Prior to her moving, she worked on, let me show you, this placard. If you can see this, it's kind of tricky on Zoom. It doesn't come through very clear, but it's a visor card, and it's for when people are driving. If they happen to be pulled over and they couldn't communicate, this is a temporary tool, if you will, and it says a picture of your driver's license, your CDL, your driver's insurance. And so the officer could point to these things on the card, like drunk driving, you ran a red light, you were swerving as you were driving, one of your headlights was out. So this is a card that the officer could use. And then maybe you could say you needed a tow truck, or you had a flat tire, so there's a variety of things that you can point to on this placard. So this legislation was passed in 2017, and we had to train so many different government agencies as well as police stations. So the police are aware of this placard card, and if you're interested in getting some of these, or if you need more, let me know, email me, and I'm more than happy to mail you some of these placards, these visor cards. So yes. Also, you can see in this picture that we provided self-advocacy training for a variety of schools. Yes, Claudette, visor card. Yes, visor card. Thank you. So yes, we provided advocacy training as well to a lot of different schools for students to teach them how to make decisions and to teach them what their rights were and how parents could help those students make, appropriate decisions. All right, next slide, please. Andrea wants a pamphlet for students to show. Yep, send me an email with your name and address, and I'm happy to mail those visor cards to you, or I can provide self-advocacy training too. Just contact me. Okay, I don't want to go on and on and on and on and on and take up too much time, but the DoD DBHH did assessments, and we did a needs assessment in 2018. And we had over 100 questions, and the results were rather amazing. We beat the numbers in the census. The Census Bureau numbers were a little bit lower than ours. So the result was 7.4% of Michiganders identify themselves as deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. That 7.4%, we do not know exactly, but we think that it's about 800 to 850,000 residents who live in Michigan. Almost 1 million people, 1 million residents identify as deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. That's amazing. So that number will continue to rise. We know it will. It is a huge number for the state of Michigan. So that's why it is very important that we have the right resources and the right assistance, technology assistance, and information. 1 million residents. We're going to hit that number very soon. So that needs assessment. The results, we talked about different barriers in courtrooms, different barriers in the hospitals, doctors' offices, and we see the problem. Currently, we have shifted our focus to be on solving the barriers and resolving those issues. We need to work together on overcoming those barriers. Accessibility is the #1 key in our community. It is essential. We want to make sure that everything is accessible to our community, and it being accessible is a benefit to everyone, not just the people in the disability community, but it's a benefit to everyone involved when everything is accessible. Next slide, please. So you can see this, it's very, the difference between hearing people and deafblind people. You can see this list of the similarities. Our approach is just a little bit different than that, someone who might be hearing. We rely on American Sign Language and English, and hearing people rely on spoken English. We rely on visual and sensory language, and hearing people rely on an auditory language. They rely on their hearing. And, they have Siri and Alexa, and our approach is different than that. We don't rely on Siri or Alexa. We do have visual alert systems, and we have video email, while hearing people have voicemail on their phone. We rely on interpreters. We rely on clubs and organizations, educational environments, community support. Hearing people rely on the same resources in their everyday life, civic and social organizations. So we are quite similar. We just have a few differences. So it's very nice to see this comparison written out. Next slide, please. All right, just sweet, short and sweet. We have national resources and we have state resources. If you're interested in knowing more, as you read through this, John will send this out in an email, and you can click on the link. If you have any, next slide, please. And I believe it has my contact information there. Oh, yep, there you go. So we do have a new director of our DoD DBHH. Her name is Kenya Lowe. She's amazing. She's an amazing woman. So if you have any concerns, any questions, or if you're just interested in some type of training, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to work together with you. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I will stay. And if there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer those at the end. Thanks again. Okay, thanks so much, Elena, for your presentation. We really appreciate it. Now I would like to introduce Claudette Reed, and she is from MRS, Michigan Rehab Services. And I'm turning it over to you, Claudette.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to be talking about pre-employment transition services through Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Now, these are available to students who are disabled and are aged between 14 and 26. And these are people who, students who are eligible for MRS or potentially eligible. What that means is there is an eligibility process that Michigan Rehab Services clients will go through. And we don't have the students who are pre-ETs have to meet that eligibility requirement at this time. If they appear to have a disability, then they can participate in the program. Pre-ETs is an early intervention, and it's delivered in a variety of developmentally appropriate experiences with the goal of ultimately leading to a competitive integrated employment outcome. So that's really what we're working towards. MRS coordinates with local education agencies to ensure effective provision of pre-ET services, including attending the individualized education program meetings and person-centered planning meetings. Pre-ET services are provided by MRS, and they do not duplicate or supplant any of the services already being provided by the local education agencies. MRS also partners with and coordinates various other stakeholders to support the work opportunities for students with disabilities. Next slide. So the difference between pre-ETs and regular VR services. First, pre-ETs are considered to be potentially eligible, don't have to go through the whole eligibility process. And so that there's a broad acceptance of persons who do have some disability. The services are limited to 5 identified pre-ET services, and they focus on services that are exploratory in nature. They're appropriate for the age and the interest of the student, and they prepare for greater independence and self-advocacy. Now, next slide. The individualized vocational rehab services, these are services that are actually provided through MRS and when somebody would become an actual MRS client. And they provide all of the services that are provided through pre-ETs plus additional services. And so these individuals need to, they have to have a disability as required through VR services. They have to be feasible to benefit from VR services. And the transition students receive both types of services. Mainly, transition students are ones who are ready to start doing some paid jobs or internships or things like that, as opposed to just the exploratory informational kinds of things. And so you have a wide range of different kinds of services that can be available. Next slide. So we're coordinating with what's happening within the local district, and it doesn't duplicate any of the things. A good example of that is that a pre-ET student can benefit from an instructor using a T-coil transmitter that goes directly into the student's hearing aids, okay? That would be the school's responsibility to provide. If that student is attending some small group workshops or worksite tours as part of their pre-ETS programming, there can be a lot of background noise. And so MRS could provide a portable T-coil system to improve the student's ability to participate in the job exploration activity. So this different kinds of issues there. So there are 5 different categories of pre-ETS service. The first is job exploration, to learn about different jobs. Consider which jobs are of interest and what skills you might need to be successful at those. Because we can all only aspire to jobs we know about, expanding what we know about is a real important first step. The second is having work-based learning experiences, participating in activities to learn about the workplace. What does the workplace expect out of the worker? How do you handle yourself in those kinds of environments? Workplace readiness is all about learning and gaining the skills that are necessary to be ready for employment. And some of that are personal skills, time management, and being able to be sure that you are appropriately dressed and have the right abilities in working with other people and knowing appropriate communications and things like that. So that there's a lot of readiness activities that can happen. Counseling on post-secondary education is important so that students get the information they need to be able to make an informed decision about what to do after high school. And then self-advocacy, because after high school, the student with a disability will be advocating for whatever accommodations they need in both the educational program and then in the work setting when they're after that. And so becoming comfortable in being able to do that is an important skill that they need to develop. So those are the 5 categories of pre-ETS services. Now, how does someone access these services? It's really pretty easy. Pre-ETS and transition counselors work in area schools. And so if you talk to a teacher or another staff member and say that you have some question about that, you'll be able to get information and see about having your student start to participate in pre-ETS programming. Or you can contact your local MRS office directly. Now, if you go to the Leo MRS office locator, you put in your location and it tells you where the closest office is. We have offices all over the state, and we also have some contact information. So this is it's a service. I know I've talked to a lot of parents who are unaware that this is something that is available for students who are deaf or have hearing loss. And so I want to be sure that people realize that this is a offer or on a service that is available to them while the students are still in school and afterwards up until the age 26. One of the other things is that under WIOA, we are budgeted and required to spend 15% of all of the MRS dollars on this population because we know that the input we put for young people really has a huge benefit later on. And so we're very much committed to that. And that is the information about Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Thank you.
This is John speaking. Thank you, Claudette. I really appreciate your time today. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Debbie Belovec and Elena as well. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, you can stay on video for a brief moment, just in case there are questions from any participants that are here today. You can speak. If those that have questions, feel free to pull up the video or do a chat. Whatever one you'd like to do, the chat is open. So this is your opportunity, audience members, to ask those questions of our guest presenters today.